is an opulent purple, sometimes mud-coloured, sometimes sparkling blue like the sea. It is always worth while to look down and see what is happening, but this lady looked neither up nor down. The only thing she had seen since she stood there was a circular iridescent patch slowly floating past with a straw in the middle of it. The straw and the patch swam again and again behind the tremulous medium of a great welling tear, and the tear rose and fell and dropped into the river. Then there struck close upon her ears, Lars Porsena occlusium, by the 9 gods he swore, and then more faintly, as if the speaker had passed her on his walk, that the great house of Tarquin should suffer wrong no more. Yes, she knew she must go back to all that, but at present she must weep. Screening her face, she sobbed more steadily than she had yet done, her shoulders rising and falling with great regularity. It was this figure that her husband saw, when having reached the polished Sphinx, having entangled himself with a man selling picture postcards, he turned. The stanza instantly stopped. He came up to her, laid his hand on her shoulder, and said, "Dearest." His voice was supplicating, but she shut her face away from him, as much as to say, "You can't possibly understand." As he did not leave her, however, she had to wipe her eyes, and to raise them to the level of the factory chimneys on the other bank. She saw also the arches of Waterloo Bridge, and the carts moving across them, like the line of animals in a shooting gallery. They were seen blankly, but to see anything was, of course, to end her weeping and begin to walk. "I would rather walk," she said, her husband having hailed a cab, already occupied by 2 city men. The fixity of her mood was broken by the action of walking. The shooting motor cars, more like spiders in the moon than terrestrial objects, the thundering drays, the jingling hansoms, and little black broughams made her think of the world she lived in. Somewhere up there above the pinnacles, where the smoke rose in a pointed hill, her children were now asking for her, and getting a soothing reply. As for the mass of streets, squares, and public buildings which parted them, she only felt at this moment how little London had done to make her love it, although 30 of her 40 years had been spent in a street. She knew how to read the people who were passing her. There were the rich who were running to and from each other's houses at this hour. There were the bigoted workers driving in a straight line to their offices. There were the poor who were unhappy and rightly malignant. Already, though there was sunlight in the haze, tattered old men and women were nodding off to sleep upon the seats. When one gave up seeing the beauty that clothed things, this was the skeleton beneath. A fine rain now made her still more dismal. Vans with the odd names of those engaged in odd industries, Sprules, manufacturer of sawdust, Grab, to whom no piece of waste paper comes amiss, fell flat as a bad joke. Bold lovers, sheltered behind one cloak, seemed to her sordid, past their passion. The flower women, a contented company, whose talk is always worth hearing, were sodden hags. The red, yellow, and blue flowers, whose heads were pressed together, would not blaze. Moreover, her husband, walking with a quick rhythmic stride, jerking his free hand occasionally, was either a Viking or a stricken Nelson. The seagulls had changed his note. "Ridley, shall we drive? Shall we drive, Ridley?" Mrs. Ambrose had to speak sharply. By this time he was far away. The cab, by trotting steadily along the same road, soon withdrew them from the West End, and plunged them into London. It appeared that this was a great manufacturing place, where the people were engaged in making things, as though the West End, with its electric lamps, its vast plate-glass windows, all shining yellow, its carefully finished houses,